got power steering, folks. Welcome back to the channel. We brought the burnout beater, the Durango cart, the Crown Vic swapped Durango back in the garage, and we need to figure out that power steering. The last time you guys saw the Durango, I failed with those AN lines on the power steering. There's just too much pressure on those lines to run the AN fittings. So we went over to Evil Energy and we ordered up some new hoses that should work for what we need to do on this Durango. So the last video on the Durango, here's the AN line that we try to use that kept blowing on us. Both sides actually blew out. If you haven't seen that video, make sure you go check that out. I'll put that in the description below and also in the comments so you guys can see our epic failure. So now we're gonna go with some PTFE fittings, which are rated for higher pressure. You can actually use these on fuel lines. It actually doesn't say power steering lines. So I'm hoping this will work, or we're gonna have another failure video. So let's unbox our little gift from, well, not gift, I actually purchased this. But if you are watching Evil Energy and you do want to sponsor one of our videos, hit us up. Fittings are a little bit more difficult to put together. Nothing that you guys can't handle as well as me. So let's unbox. Well, I was a good boy and read some instructions. So now I think I know what I need to do. First thing we need to do is we need to measure to see how long of tube we need for our new line to the power steering from the Crown Vic rack and pinion to the pump. Luckily, we have our old hose to go off of because this length was good. So we'll just measure off this length and do some cutting. I think most guys just use a cutoff wheel. You can use a hacksaw as well if you don't have a cutoff wheel. And then we got to pull the braid, take that tape off where we cut, and then we got to take the braids out because we got to put the olive, they call it, inside that plastic tubing. But I'll show you that when we get to that point. Here's my little olive, they call it. And I flared out the braiding because this olive has to go over the plastic tubing, the PTFE. And then we got the little tool mocked up in here. And you're supposed to kind of like lube this, they say. And like the tube has to go all the way into the flush side of this olive. So we're just gonna see what happens here. I'm gonna try brake cleaner first. They didn't really tell you what kind of lube to use. I see some guys use grease. Nice thing about brake fluid, or brake cleaner I should say, would be it dissolves. So we'll see if this does the trick. Kind of twist it on there, maybe. Ooh. It's doing something. It doesn't feel right, whatever's happening. But how would I know? I've never done this. Whew. I think we did something. It's hard to see on camera, but it looks like the plastic's all the way to the shoulder inside there, right? Not like you can see because my camera's not focusing. I'm gonna call that a win. Yes, I almost forgot to put the most important part on. The nice thing about this kit too, it's got these 45 fittings, which I thought was pretty neat because I didn't really need a 90 down there by the rack and pinion. And I think we're gonna lube this too. So I think the next step is to take our tool out and then we'll put this feller in. I do have soft jaws to go on this vise. I feel like they slip off all the time. Let's use some brake cleaner magic again. Slipped right on there. Dude, I'm gonna be so happy if this works. Because again, if you didn't see the last video, those AN fittings, the AN fittings are still in this kit. I should say the AN hose getting me good. So let's tighten this fitting up. And then we have this side to do. Feeling good. You guys feeling good too? Think it's gonna work? You guys already know because a lot of times in my videos I like to give you a little spoil alert in the intros. You like the little 19mm trick in the vise to tighten up the fittings? Yeah, I learned that one from Atwood's Garage. You just put some fittings, PTFEs, on his Jeep Comanche. If you don't know who Atwood Garage is, he's just a small YouTuber, but he's an old man genius. So he's kind of fun to watch, makes a lot of stuff himself, and he's a machinist, so it's kind of cool to watch what he does and learn that trick from one of his videos. So we got this one flared out. Time to put our olive in and see. This one's showing a little bit of that braid, those wires. More of the wires are shown in there, so just got to make sure you don't get those in between your olive and your plastic, because then it's subject to leak. So let's switch out the 19mm for this tool and make another fitting. Well, we got our new line made, both ends. Before we install this new line and see if we are victorious or failures, we have priorities. Got a sticker, so the sticker needs to go in the trash cans. So we got to do that first. Well, it's looking like we got the rack side finished. We have a little buddy coming. He's my new shop helper. His name is Lynx because he's got a stub tail. Yeah, you. We're talking about you. Our new helper. We got the rack and pinion couplers in. Ideally, it would be nice to have a 45 like I put in on the pressure side. I'm kind of liking that 45 instead of the 90 fitting, but that's all we have for now. So that's what we're gonna rock with. And now we just need to plumb this pressure side in on the pump. And the only reason I have this press-in tube here is when we were running it without the pump going to the rack. I want to bend this tube down, but I also don't want to break it at the same time. So we're just gonna leave that alone, throw some zippity ties on here, and just hopefully it doesn't leak. And that's all we're going for right now, is power steering with no leaks. We're going over function. We're going with function over style at this point. Plus we don't have too many style points with this burnout beater until we get the Willys cab on it. Then we'd be rocking. Then we'll be styling. Then we'll be having style points. I feel like this is a 19mm, but it's a little big. Okay, moment of truth. Fire this up. We'll put it on a jack right away and get the tension off the wheels and try to power cycle this power steering, get the bubbles out, and see if we have any catastrophic failures like our last video on this burnout beater. We're going without no blown hoses this time. Let's see what we got for fluid. We're still not touching the dipstick, so I think I need to go to O'Reilly's and go pick up some more power steering fluid, because this is the only thing I have right now is some Lucas. Put a little bit in there, see if I can get it to touch on the dipstick, and no good so far. So let's run to the parts store.
3 days later.
Well, it's been a couple days since I've been out here working on the Durango, and I thought, pull the hood up, see if there's any leaks. Yeah, there's leaks. Come on. But guess what? It's not on any of our fittings. It's the rack and pinion. Why is it so dark in here? I got really bright lights, but you can't see my face. All right, so if you know anything about these Crown Vic rack and pinions, comment below, because this little black washer looking screwdriver looks like it's the culprit. So all of our lines are looking real good. No leaks on our new hose that we made, and no leaks down here as well. But down here, as you can see on the floor, we got a leak, and it's coming from that little black screwdriver. Sadly, I think we're gonna have to get a new rack and pinion unless that unscrews and you can put a seal in there. I'm gonna have to do some more research, but if you know anything about the Crown Vic rack and pinion, like I said, let a guy know. Because right now, I'm just gonna ignore that. I got a rag. We'll clean up the floor. Maybe it's just bleeding the access, the extra fluid that it didn't need. Yeah, we'll go with that. I came out to the garage because I really can't stand how much this hood sticks out and doesn't latch anymore for some reason. I actually had to cut this hood out again when I took the fenders off, which tells you how clapped out this body is. Because if you don't know, the body's pretty rusty. Like, it doesn't have body mounts in the front, so that's an issue. So I'm thinking when I took the fenders out, we lost a lot of rigidity, and I had to cut that hole bigger in the hood. But back to my thoughts on what to do with this Durango until we body swap it, because I've said this in other videos, I don't plan on body swapping this Durango this year. We're gonna run it this way, but I really can't stand how much the nose sticks out in front of the Durango now that we got the Crown Vic front end, and it sits back just a teach, and plus we're gonna run smaller tires, no fenders. So therefore I'm out here in the garage and something's gonna happen involving a reciprocating saw and an angle grinder. And I wanna remove this bumper because I think this bumper is gonna work mint on one of my Grand Cherokees. So I'm gonna remove this bumper first and see if we can mock it up and if it will fit on one of our Grand Cherokees. And then boom, just like that, it's the next day. Or it's been a couple days since I've been out here. A couple seconds for you guys, but we got an Amazon order. Yeah, ordered some sparking plugs. I went out and reached on social medias and asked you guys what you guys are running for spark plugs for your V8 Durangos. This is what you guys came up with. So this is what we're going with. I already pulled one spark plug. And the reason I'm doing this is because this thing runs like garbage. Most likely due to me, because I deleted the factory fuel tank on here and we put this little cheapo with an LS pump and regulator. And it's probably running about 60 PSI and it's running about 58 to 60. And I believe this 5.2 wants to run around mid 50s for PSI. So I thought we'd just throw some spark plugs in. And I pulled the first plug and look what I found. Well, there's the first plug. Yeah, super nasty. And look at the gap. If my camera could focus, the gap. The spark plug gap should be 40 thousandths. And look at that gap on the one we took out of the Durango. I grabbed the gauge and it's way past 70. So right there makes me wonder how well this Durango was even running before I eliminated the factory fuel tank and messed with the fuel. So let's throw a bunch of these shiny new plugs, the sparkulators, in the Durango and see if it runs better. I'm gonna do that before I start ripping the front bumper off, stubbing the front of this Durango. We should probably pick up our priorities on this channel a little bit and do some maintenance stuff. So let's do that. 50 degrees out today. March 3rd. Yeah, we got the door open. We have 6 more to go. 2 down, 6 to go. Then we'll see if this old beater runs a little bit better. I'll tell you one thing. This is really convenient not having inner fenders to change the spark plugs. I'm liking it. All right, we got 8 new sparkulators in the Durango rod. Let's fire it up. That's already way better. This thing was horrible at idle. I didn't even touched the throttle yet. Another thing we can test is when I jab the throttle, it'd usually die too. Too much. Still have a fuel issue probably. Well, according to those plugs, they were pretty wet. But let's see how it fires up again. Not good. Did I flood the plugs already? Gonna have to put a regulator on it. Well, it's idling again. Regulator, probably, yeah, in my future. This is a built-in regulator. I vent this too, even though it has a return. I'm gonna vent the tank and see if that helps. I did myself dirty when I welded this old race truck front bumper onto the Durango. I welded the bumper on the pre-existing front bumper mounts, but those bolts look like they're like machined or pressed into that plate. Yeah, the old hammer isn't forcing those bolts out. There's 3 bolts holding it on. So I'm gonna end the video here because the video is getting quite long and we already succeeded at one thing during this video, almost 2, but the spark plugs aren't the issue. It's the high fuel pressure on the Durango. But we do have power steering on the Durango. That's a win right there. So let's end this video with that win and tackle this bumper on another video. Like I said before, I want to cut this section. I want to cut all this off and move the radiator in the rear of the Durango. But I better get some more parts coming and a better idea of how I'm going to do that before we just start chopping the front end off. Because now I do need to chop the front end off to get this bumper as well. I thought we could just sneak the bumper off, put it on our Grand Cherokee, and life would be good. But I'm going to have to cut the frame to get those brackets off so we can remove that front bumper. As always, thanks for watching, and until next time.